Now we are in module 4, that's about distributed file systems. So a distributed file system enables program to store and access remote files exactly as they do local ones. So it allows users to access files from any computer on a network. And one more thing is that the performance and reliability experience for access to files stored at a server should be comparable to that of a file stored on a local disk. So these are the contents of this module. Basics of a file system. Then we will define a simple file service architecture for file system, and then describe two different distributed file service implementations with the contrasting designs. Those are Sun Network file system and Andrew file system. Coming to the introduction, you can say that sharing of resources is a key goal for a distributed system, and sharing of stored information is the most important aspect of distributed resource sharing. Lot many mechanisms are there for data sharing and all. Like web servers provide a restricted form of data sharing in which files stored locally in the file system at the server or in servers on a local network are made available to clients throughout the internet. File systems were originally developed for centralized computer systems and desktop computers, just as an operating system facility for providing a convenient programming interface to disk storage, and subsequently acquired features such as access control and file locking mechanisms that made them useful for sharing of data and programs. And coming to a distributed environment, distributed file systems support sharing of information in the form of files and hardware resources. And a well-defined file service provides access to files stored at a server with performance and reliability similar to or even better in some case than files stored on local disk. So this figure provides an overview of the types of storage systems available, like main memory, file system, distributed file system, web, distributed shared memory, remote objects, persistent object store, peer-to-peer storage systems. So this distributed shared memory actually provides an emulation of a shared memory by the replication of memory pages or segments at each host. But it does not necessarily provide automatic persistence. Persistence in the sense of permanent storage. So persistent object stores were introduced here to provide persistence for distributed shared objects. And the peer-to-peer storage systems offer scalability to support client loads much larger than the system we already learned. So the consistency column indicates whether there is some mechanism to maintain the consistency between multiple copies of data when some updates occurs. So virtually all storage systems use caching mechanism to optimize the performance of programs, right? So caching was first applied to main memory and non-distributed file system. And the value 1 indicates there is a strict consistency. So that means program cannot observe any discrepancies between a cached copy and the stored data after an update. But in case of distributed systems where distributed replicas are used, strict consistency is more difficult to achieve. In such cases, we are using an approximation to strict consistency, and that is marked as a tick mark. Now in case of web, you can see a cross mark here, that means the consistency is not maintained. So in the case of web, it uses caching extensively both at client computers and at proxy servers maintained by the organization, right? So the consistency between the copies stored at web proxies and client caches and the original server is only maintained by explicit user actions. So clients are not notified when a page stored at the original server is updated. They must perform explicit checks to keep their local copies up to date. So we can say that there is no consistency maintenance mechanism in case of web storage. It should be done explicitly by the user. Let us start from basic characteristics of a file system. So each file system is responsible for the organization, storage, retrieval, naming, sharing and protection of files. So this file system provides a programming interface that characterizes the file's abstraction. So each file contains both data and some attributes. The data consists of a sequence of data items, typically 8-bit bytes will be there, and it is accessible by operations to read and write any portions of the sequence. Like attributes are held as a single record containing information such as length of the file, timestamp, file type, owner's identity, access control list, etc. So we can see the different components of this attributes. So the shaded attributes are managed by the file system and are not normally updated by the user program. Now let us go through different requirements for a distributed file system. First one is transparency. As we know, the file service is the most heavily loaded service in an intranet. So its functionality and performance are critical. So the design of the file service should support many types of or many levels of transparency requirements like access transparency, location transparency, mobility, performance, scaling, etc. Access transparency, client programs should be unaware of the distribution of files. A single set of operations is provided for access to both local and remote files. Programs written to operate on local files are able to access remote files without modification. That is access transparency. Now, location transparency. Client programs should see a uniform file namespace. Files or group of files may be relocated without changing their path names, and user programs see the same namespace wherever they are executed. Now the third one is mobility transparency. So neither the client programs nor the system administration tables in the client nodes need to be changed when the files are moved. So there are different requirements for moving the files. Even a set or volumes of files may have to be moved. So either by the system administrators or automatically. Next, performance transparency. Client programs should continue to perform satisfactorily while the load on the service varies within a specified range. And the last one is scaling transparency. So the service can be expanded by incremental growth to deal with a wide range of loads and network sizes. The next requirement is concurrent file updates. So changes to a file by one client should not interfere with the operation of other clients who are simultaneously accessing or changing the same file. This is a well-known issue of concurrency control. Next requirement is file replication. So a file may be represented by several copies of its contents at different locations. Two different benefits are there. First one, it enables multiple servers to share the load of providing a service to clients accessing the same set of files, so thereby enhancing the scalability of service. And secondly, it enhances the fault tolerance by enabling clients to locate another server if one fails. And only a few file services support replication fully, but most of the file systems support caching of files or portions of the files locally, which can be called as a limited form of replication. Next is heterogeneity. So heterogeneity in terms of both hardware and operating systems. So the service interfaces should be defined so that the client and server software can be implemented for different operating systems and computers. This is a major requirement for openness. Next one is fault tolerance. The central role of the file service in distributed systems make it essential that the service continue to operate in the face of client and server failures. A moderately fault-tolerant design can be achieved in a straightforward manner, like just to cope up with transient communication failures. The design can be based on at most one invocation semantics, or it can use simpler at least one semantics with a server protocol. And the server can be made stateless so that they can be restarted and service restored after a failure without any need to recover previous state. Next one is consistency. So conventional file systems such as that provided by Unix usually offer one copy update semantics. So this is actually a model for concurrent access to files in which the file content seen by all the processes accessing or updating the same file. For all of them, it just seems that only a single copy of the file exists. That is called one copy update semantics. But definitely in the case of distributed file systems, the files are replicated or cached at different sites. So obviously there will be a delay in the propagation of modifications made at one site to all the other sites that hold copies. And this may result in some deviation from one copy semantics. Then security. So virtually all file systems provide access control mechanism based on the use of access control list. In distributed file system, there is a need to authenticate client requests so that access control at the server is based on correct user identities, and to protect the contents of requests and reply messages with digital signatures and encryption of secret data, etc. And efficiency. So a distributed file service should offer facilities that are at least the same power and generality as those found in conventional file systems, and also it should provide or it should achieve a comparable level of performance. Let us say the file service architecture. So a file service is structured into three different components: a flat file service, a directory service, and a client module. The flat file service and the directory service both export an interface for use by the client programs and their RPC interfaces. The client module provides a single programming interface with operations on files similar to those found in conventional file systems. We can see the division of responsibilities between these modules. So this figure shows the overall structure of these different modules. Let's say client module resides within the client machine, and directory service and flat file service resides in server machine. So the first module, that is flat file service. So this module is used to implement the basic file operations on the contents of the file. So each file will be assigned a unique file identifier, or UFID in short, and that ID is used to refer the file. So usually these UFIDs are long sequence of bits, because each and every file should be given a unique ID. And the division of responsibilities between the file service and directory service is based on these UFIDs. And when this flat file service module is asked to or receives a request to create a file, it generates a new UFID for it and return the UFID to the request. Second module, that is directory service. So directory service provides a mapping between the text names of the files and the corresponding UFIDs. So clients may obtain the UFID of a file by quoting its text name to this directory service. And the directory service provides a function needed to generate directories or to add file names to directories and then obtain the UFIDs from the directories. So we can say that this directory service is actually a client of a flat file service module. Third module, that is client module. So a client module runs in each client computer, integrating and extending the operations of the flat file service and directory service under a single application programming interface that is available to user level programs in client computers. So that is the purpose of client module, combining all the services provided by the flat file service and directory service, and provides a unique interface through which the client can access the file service. In addition, this client module holds some information about the network locations of flat file and directory service, etc. Finally, the client module can play an important role in achieving satisfactory performance through implementation of a cache of recently used file blocks at the client. That's also done by the client. So these are the operations in file service architecture: read, write, create, delete, get attributes and set attributes. So there is no open and close operations. Files can be accessed immediately by quoting the appropriate UFID. Now let us compare this file service architecture with Unix. So functionally both are equivalent. So it's just a simple matter to construct a client module that emulates the Unix system calls in terms of a flat file service and directory service operations. In comparison with the Unix interface, there is no open and close operation. That's the first difference. And the read and write operations here includes a parameter specifying a starting point within the file for each transfer, whereas the equivalent Unix operation don't have such a parameter. That's in Unix, each read or write operation starts at the current position of read or write pointer, and read write pointer is advanced by the number of bytes transferred after each read or write. A seek operation is provided to enable the read write pointer to be explicitly repositioned in the case of Unix. Next point of comparison is access control. In case of Unix file system, the user's access rights are checked against the access mode, that is read or write request in open call, and the file is opened only if the user has the necessary rights. Whereas in case of distributed implementations, access rights checks have to be performed at the server, because server RPC interface is an open or unprotected point of access to files. The user ID should be passed with request, and the server is vulnerable to forged identities. Furthermore, if the results of an access rights checks were retained at the server and used for future accesses, the server would no longer be stateless. So two alternative approaches are there which can be adopted here. First one is, an access check is made whenever a file name is converted into a UFID. And the second one is, a user ID is submitted with every client request, and access checks are performed by the server for every file operation. So both of these methods enable stateless server implementation, and both have been used in distributed file system. How the files are arranged. In the case of Unix, we have a hierarchical arrangement of files and directories. So hierarchical file system provides or consists of a number of directories arranged in a tree structure. Each directory holds the names of the files and other directories that are accessible from it. Any file or directory can be referenced using a path name, a multi-path name that represents a path through the tree. So in case of Unix file naming, it's not strictly hierarchical, because file can have several names and they can be in same or different directories. So usually this is implemented using link operations. So a Unix-like file naming system can be implemented by the client module using the flat file or directory service that we have already defined. So a tree structured network of directories is constructed with files at the leaves and directories at the other nodes of the tree. And the root of the tree is a directory with a well-known UFID. Multiple names for the files can be supported using add name operation and reference count field in the attribute record. So in case of Unix, we have a file group. A file group is a collection of files located on a given server. A server may hold several file groups, and groups can be moved between servers. But a file cannot change the group to which it belongs. A similar construct called file system is used in Unix and in most other operating systems. So a similar construct can be there in a flat file system also. So file groups, in case of distributed file systems, support the allocation of files to file servers in larger logical units and enable the service to be implemented with files stored on several servers. So in a distributed file system that supports file groups, the representation of UFIDs includes a file group ID component, enabling the client module in each client computer to take the responsibility for dispatching requests to the server that hold the relevant file group. So each file group will be given a file group ID, and it should be assured that the file group ID must be unique throughout the distributed system. So there are a lot of challenges in case of distributed environment, since the file groups can be moved and distributed systems that are initially separate can be merged to form a single system. We have to ensure that the file group IDs should be unique, right? And the only way to ensure that file group IDs will always be distinct in a given system is to generate them with an algorithm that ensure global uniqueness. So usually what will be done is, whenever a new file group is created, a unique ID can be generated by concatenating the 32-bit IP address of the host creating the new group with a 16-bit integer derived from the date, producing a unique 48-bit integer. This is how a ID will be created. A 32-bit IP address of the machine in which that file group is created with a 16-bit date concatenated, the date at which that group is created. So we will get a 48-bit number or identifier that will be treated as the group ID. So remember that the IP address cannot be used for the purpose of locating the file group because it may be moved to another server. Instead, the mapping between group ID and the server should be maintained by the file service. So these are all about the file system architecture, and next session we can go through two different implementations of the file system architecture. Those are network file system, typically the Sun network file system, and then Andrews file system. Thank you.